who do I have in front of me now?
Mary Nacey.
And Mary, where are you from?
Kiltra, Wellington Bridge.
And we're here now in February 2022. We had a fair run of the last 2 years, didn't we?
We surely did, Michael, yes.
What do you remember February, March 2020?
I do indeed very well. When I was in the hairdresser in Bridgetown and it came through on the radio that about 2 weeks, given 2 weeks for this COVID thing, and it was just so scary, like everyone was just scared, thinking it was only going to be for the 2 weeks. Everyone was hampering on the news that night. I don't think anyone ever saw the news as much as they did that particular day.
And there was loads of unknowns.
Absolutely, yeah, but it was very scary. Like everyone was talking about it for a few days, thinking, right, sure, look, it'll be grand over in 2 weeks. And then the 2 weeks went into another 2 weeks, and then after that, then it just escalated into a month, couple of months more. Absolutely crazy.
You would have never thought it would last that long.
Definitely not. No, I thought maybe, well, hopefully come the summertime, maybe June, July and August, the fine weather would bring away all the bit of the cold that came in. Well, it wasn't a cold, but this virus. But obviously it just got worse, and as the places were shutting down, that was horrendous, like for businesses and anybody going to school kids were suffering in a big way. I found, especially with my little one, like she's only 5, and she was kind of she was on her own, like a lonely child, and she was just finding it so hard for the couple of months not seeing her friends, or not being able to play with them, and she couldn't understand why this was happening. What was this all about, Mummy? And it was just so hard to explain to her. But eventually she got used to it. It was sort of like getting part of the norm for her now, you know.
And yeah, were there any times when you just got browned off the whole thing?
Oh, look, at first I thought it was amazing, because not amazing as in getting the virus, but the fact that we all slowed down a bit, and me in particular, I would be on the go the whole time, and it was just lovely to spend the time at home and not rushing around, not worrying where I have to bring Jenna to play date or her little camogie games, her hip hop dance. It was lovely and relaxing, but then after a few months it was like, okay, this is getting a bit more serious now, you know. And it was just, I don't know, I found that it was, a lot of people were starting to get a bit down, and other people were finding it difficult to speak out and stuff like that. And I found not with people's attitudes or anything like that, it was just more of a change of people were nearly afraid to say hello to you, even with wearing a mask, and they were like, oh my God, you know, the difference in people when they were in the shops and stuff like that. It just, the atmosphere was gone out of everyone. The bubble had burst. It was like someone had died straight away with this virus. It was horrendous.
And was that fear much?
I found it was very fearful for a lot of people anyway. I mean, I was fearful in the very first of it myself, you know. And
you said you had a good experience for the first couple of months. You didn't mind it, didn't bother you, did it? No, but then as people were dying from it, and as time went on, the numbers were getting up. It was then, as time went on, that I thought, oh my God, like this is getting way out of hand. And it was getting scary at that stage. Worried if it would come to your door, especially for your child. It was that experience and the whole thing of it. Like, I found people like were, as I say, nearly afraid to talk to other people. And it was sad to see the fear, because I think the fear may have escalated more with people. I don't know. That we'll never know, but the loneliness of it more so as well. Like, not for the people, especially the elderly, when they couldn't have people coming into them or whatever, and their usual family coming or grandchildren or whatever. The fear of that would have built around loneliness, which I thought was very sad for these people living on their own, especially, you know. That was the hardest part.
And it was hard for families as well. You couldn't go visit your mothers and fathers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a carer myself, and I had to give up my job like for a few months anyway at the first of it. And for them families not to see the carers that they're so used to coming into every day, that was hard for them. Yes, you're talking to them on the phone, but it's not the same thing, like, you know, seeing the face to face and the lovely smile that they'd have when you go into them, you know. Just to brighten up their day. You mightn't have to do anything for them, only just to say hello and have a little chat. And sometimes for that older person, that's the best medicine they could ever have.
That was gone from people's
Absolutely lives. Gone. And I think then it was built into the fear for them and whatnot have you, you know. And I felt that some people may have died of loneliness and the fear more so than the virus itself if they never got it. Me and the whole, I would have said it was very sad in that perspective anyway, you know.
And you the tragedy yourself in your own family only recently?
I did with my mum. She's only recently gone there, just the day after St. Stephen's Day. Very hard, and obviously still coming to terms with it because it's so raw still. But Mum was actually to be seen for she was to be seen for up in St. Vincent's, and it was cancelled in the first of the pandemic. There had been nothing wrong with her at that stage, only just general checkup, and everything was fine, and she was in flying form. And she was so happy herself that she didn't get to go, simply because that she didn't want to get COVID and end up in hospital, or worst case scenario, dead. So everything pottered along and everything was grand up until August of this year, maybe July, August of this year. Mum she had originally got the jabs back in January when they first came out, because she worked in an elderly home in Grantstown Daycare Centre, and she would have been in the kitchen. She was the cook there, and everything was okay, but she felt very tired after getting the jabs and whatnot have you. And as time went on, then she was getting more tired, and she just wasn't feeling herself. She was sort of dragging her feet along and whatnot have you. And she eventually went into hospital, and then she was sent up to Vincent's, and they discovered there that she had complications, and with all the complications then it turned out to be cancer, and it was only months basically, and she passed away, as I say, on just after St. Stephen's Day, thankfully peacefully and in no pain or suffering, and she didn't have to have any palliative care. And I spent the first and last night with her, thinking it was going to be the first of 2 or 3 months,
But look, thankfully for Mum, you know, that she went off nicely. She didn't suffer, and she was able to sleep in her own bed in her own room. She didn't have to be in hospital or anything like that, which was lovely for her. Just sad on the family, but that was the downfall, I'm afraid, on my part anyway, on COVID. But who's to say that? We don't know. We'll never know.
I'm so really sorry to hear that.
Thank you. When I think back now, I think, God, if COVID hadn't have come, maybe my mum would still be here with us. Maybe not. Maybe we'd have her a bit longer. I don't know. We'll always have questions, so many if, buts, maybes, but we'll never get the answers. So maybe the only way that we're looking on it as a family now is that maybe my brother called on her and it was his turn after 25 years, so it was his call. I had our time with her.
The old people were very good, weren't they? You think of it, they're just to do what they think is right. Sometimes they'll put everything else first rather than themselves. They'll follow the rules, they'll follow everything, you know.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
They carry an awful lot of responsibility and they carry the weight of probably their own families and their grandchildren with them as well. We never see it on their shoulders.
No, definitely not. Never. But a big part of Mum died that day anyway. My brother died, so you know, maybe she's gone to a better place with the way the world has gone now today. I do think maybe it's our, what would you say, our sanity really.
How were you with her for the last 2 years? Did she get to see the grandchildren and stuff like that?
Mum would have been very by the book about it, like even though she was working. Well, obviously, like Grantstown Daycare Centre had closed down for that time because of the older people. Like they wouldn't have been able to come in. Yes, they were able to get the dinners out to them and stuff like that, but it had closed up for a long time. And then Mum got back to work just before she retired, because she retired just in April of last year. She was 66. So she was doing the takeaway dinners there, but yeah, she really was very strict on it. I remember loads of times, like she wouldn't even go and get the paper or anything like that. She was having me dad in, even isolating, like, and we'd have to talk to her at the wall, but she'd be like maybe not 2 meters, but maybe 4 meters, and she'd be nearly shouting at me, and I'd be like, oh my God. Whereas I think because I'm stubborn, I would have let her go over my head to a certain extent. Obviously, yes, I would have worried for the lads, you know. But yeah, no, she really stuck to it, like, and she was going away with her friend Trish every Saturday, and that all stopped. And the saddest part about it, when I do think about the last 2 years, even though it was good, as I said in the first of it, like having a little break and not going anywhere and not having to rush. Looking back now, I didn't spend enough time with Mum because we didn't have the chance to, and that's the sad part about. That's my sad part about it, that I was so used to going places where we do our bit of shopping up to Waterford and going out for a few meals and stuff like that. They're the things that I wish that maybe we had spent more time. So really, as much time I would have spent with her before that, it was spent less during the COVID, unfortunately. In the first of the pandemic, there was the older generation were unfortunately dying of COVID, and then it got down to our age and younger, and thankfully now it's sort of burning itself out and it's not doing as much harm, fingers crossed. I really had hope like that this new year was going to be things back to normal, going places with Mum, you know, but obviously not to be.
nothing you could do about that, and your mother wouldn't want you worrying about it either, I'd say.
No, definitely not. But
She would not, yeah. Did you ever look back sometimes and go, where did those 2 years go?
yeah, but yeah, at the same time, it feels so long, Michael. You know, it feels like a lifetime at the same time. When people would be talking to you as normal, God, you know, them 2 years, where did they go? They go so quick. Do you know when a child is born and they're 2, and all of a sudden, like, God Almighty, she's 2. But yeah, with this pandemic, it just felt like, you know, 2 years of our life was completely wiped out. But it feels like more. And now, this new norm, like, people are seem to be getting used to this new norm, which is kind of sad in a way, because I wish things were back to normal. Not the fast pace, of course, but just for people not to be as afraid, or to get back to their friendly way. And I'm not saying that people weren't friendly during COVID, but they were just, as I said earlier, nearly afraid to say hello in case they coughed on you or whatever, you know.
That'll be a hard step, won't it? Getting back to being shaking hands, giving someone a hug.
Yeah, it's like what I was saying to you earlier, like when we were talking in the kitchen about this old man that I saw today, like, and he just smiled at me. He had no ask, like, even though he was outside, but I was just overwhelmed by it, like, whereas before I just would have taken advantage of a smile. I'd be just going, hello, whatever, you know. But this time I was like, oh my God, the poor man, he smiled.
Yeah, we need to learn on that again, won't we?
Yeah, it's like a child being born all over again. We have to retrain our brain back to normal, as good as anyway. I know it was only 2 weeks ago at home, and I just happened to go into the conservatory where most of my little one's ties, Jenna, is, and she was there playing with her dollies, but she had a mask on her. And she was actually telling the dolls, now you have to wear your mask and keep your distance. And I thought, oh no, like she's just literally, I don't know what the word you could use, but she's fixated on this because it's coming from us. And I sort of felt bad because, you know, as a parent, this is what I'm teaching my child now, even though it's not going to be like this forever. She's going to be psychological thinking about it, and maybe in years to come it'll come to her mind, God, you know, remember that time. I just thought it was very sad, like, and she was in her own home having to wear a mask playing with her dollies.
It affected them to children too, didn't it?
Yeah, very surprised now at that, and especially at that age you wouldn't think like that they would think so much, but definitely. When I saw it 2 weeks ago, it broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart.
You made the decision not to get the vaccination.
I did indeed, Michael. For the simple reason was because I have an underlying condition, and for the moment, I'm just going to leave it to rest for the moment, and maybe in the next year or two, I hope that I will anyway. Please God.
Because you were worried, were you?
I was worried, yes, and I just thought, God, it seems awful quick. But that's just my thinking on it. It might not be everybody else's, but yeah, that's the way I feel about it at the moment, and I'm still in that same mode. As I say, I could change my mind in a year or two down the line, but for the moment I'm quite happy. Because of the underlying condition that I have seen people who've had terrible side effects on it, because I'm on this group with the underlying condition that I have, and people have been very, very sick, so it does kind of scare me a little bit.
How did you find doing things like wearing a mask, sanitising your hands? Did that bother you at all?
The masks, they definitely did bother me. I actually didn't like them at all, and I actually didn't think there was a need for them, and I know I've probably been criticised for it, because my other half said, oh God, he never got a dose of flu since he wore the mask. But I said neither did I. Even though I wore the mask, I just thought it was hiding behind people, like you couldn't see what was going on. you know, I just thought it just wasn't the same. And for a long time, like, nobody was wearing masks, and then when it was mandatory, like, it seemed like more people, whatever about our age and older and whatever, I just thought for the kids, I thought it was very sad that they had to bring that into the schools. I really did, because they were wearing that for 8 hours a day, and still are, of course, like, and I thought that part definitely very sad that they had to wear masks. But then it had to be done, unfortunately.
Would you be glad to get rid of them?
I'll definitely be thrown in the bin the first minute, Michael. I'm not joking you. I'll be waving. I'll be actually putting a picture up on Facebook, and I'll be going here, and it's in the bin. Straight away. I was in a place there only last week, I won't mention any names or anything like that, but they have the purse bricks up and stuff like that, and it was kind of sad because it's behind a counter, and I was given the order or whatever, and she just shut it, you know, she just said, "Oh Mary, what would you like?" and whatever, and it was just, she just not slammed the door, but she just had to shut it because of, obviously, with this still in. And I just thought, yeah, you just don't get that same friendliness, you know, or you're thinking that you're going to have a little chat with the person, but you're actually not, and then you're standing there waiting for your order, and you're like, oh, it's not the same. Yeah, I definitely can't wait for them to be taken down and getting back to saying hello and even just a friendly chat to the person behind the counter. It's just them little things, like, because it's not that you're wanting to get gossip or anything, it's just even the weather, just talking about the weather, like, whereas before we would have said, oh geez, look, all the Irish ever do is talk about the weather and what have you, but now we're just like, yeah, let's just talk about the weather, at least you're talking to somebody.
And the community, will you ever get tired of talking about COVID?
Yes, definitely, Michael. Absolutely, without a doubt. I'm sick to the teeth of it now. But yet, I'd be the very one that would be given out at the same time. So I really can't talk, because if anyone says, God, she's the one that talks about it all the time, she never stops. So yes, I am guilty.
Do you remember the early days of being guilty of anything? What was your guilt when you stocked up on stuff?
Well, it wasn't toilet roll anyway, that's one sure thing, Michael. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't panic because I just thought it was going to be over quite soon. And every week as weeks went by, I just thought, no, it will be over, it'll be okay. And then when they kept saying that the shops were opening, I just didn't really panic, you know. And then I was kind of glad, because in one sense, because I just wasn't spending as much money. I wasn't going out in the car, so I wasn't putting money, diesel into the car. So yeah, no, I didn't really stock up. I just.
Where did you go shopping?
I did most of the shopping in the Bridges in Wellington Bridge at that stage, where I would have been in town when I was working. Like, I'd be going into the shops in town or whatever. Big shopaholic. So that, I have to admit, that stopped for me big time.
And did you miss shopping, did you?
I thought I did, but I didn't really. Because we weren't going anywhere, so I was grand because I didn't have to spend money on clothes where I didn't have to.
Was there anything you missed at all in those 2 years?
Well, definitely, as I say, the big thing was going places with my mum. That for me will always stay with me. If only we had that, even the last year, you know, and it seemed to have got more stricter in the last year really than it did the first year. When everything was completely closed down. Looking back now, yeah, I wish we would have had spent more time and an odd weekend away or something like that, which we used to do with my Aunt Anne. It was always that we were going to have weekends away, and we had done it before, well before pandemic, like, of course, and then my little one came along, so I had to stay quiet for a while. But yeah.
And come here to me. Did you discover parts of Wexford that you never knew about before?
Yeah, my own little back areas in Banno, especially, and going to Tintern Abbey, I realised that the longer walks and the fantastic views around there, you know, the beaches, 3 beaches beside me, like, and I would have gone down now and again, but I actually even got into the water during the winter time. That's how bad it was for me. And I would never done that before, and now I'd love going down there in the winter time.
Did you take up swimming?
I didn't take up swimming, I just got a dip. Just paddle the feet.
Just to feel that energy to water.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, fantastic. And cost nothing. And the fresh air was good.
We were blessed to be living in a country like, weren't we?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, seeing some of the programmes there in Dublin there where they were living in apartments, and I felt sorry for an awful lot of the workers that were laid off and couldn't even go outside because it was only like, what, 2 kilometres that you could go or something like that. And seeing them, and I thought, my God, we are lucky living out in the country. Really are. At least you could walk outside your gate and walk down the road or something like that.
I think we could handle it better too if, in some ways, cities are built around the idea, or a town even is built around the idea of having everything. But then when everything is taken away from you, you've nothing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And we don't realise it until a crash like this happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the country ones were something probably in our DNA where we can handle it a bit more, I think. Yeah. And did you notice things like the primroses in the ditch, or did you go walking in the fields again, not like that? Or?
Yeah, loads of times, even in my own fields. Obviously, it did bring me back to my childhood when I used to be doing it, like in the 80s and 90s with my mum, you know, when there was only like one car in the house, and she'd often be walking down to work down to her friend in Banno, like, and she became really good friends with her. And yeah, we used to be walking along the ditches, and Mum would always pick up an old strawberry or something during the summertime. But I have to say, I didn't find that this time around, because obviously nature isn't like what it was back then. You know, the ditches are being cut big time and there's nothing. There's very few left. But yeah, I did see some alright.
Did you find the roads, for a moment, did you find the roads were quiet? The cars were gone?
Quite never. I could even walk in the middle of the road down in Kiltra. There wasn't a sinner, you know. Not even the neighbours or anything.
Funny you mentioned
most of them, actually, when I think back now, like, there was a great shop there in Carrick-on-Banno. I know she won't mind mention her name, Breda Kelly, and she was fantastic to the neighbours around, giving going around. Her husband was going around in the van doing deliveries for an awful lot of the labourers. You know, the people were absolutely fantastic, the neighbours around helping one another.
It's interesting that people that looking out for each other.
Yeah, I did find that, and it gave me a thought on it, like, that when this whole pandemic is completely gone, even though it's not, but at the moment I would definitely put it in place that I would visit people more, you know, because I remember Mum and my granny always said, like, years ago, you could go into someone's house anytime and there could be about 4 or 5 people in having a right chat, mug of tea, maybe an odd drop of whiskey in it, I don't know. But I just think it would be lovely to get back to that, you know, for the older generation anyway. Definitely nice to have people coming to your home when something like this hits home. that you do depend on your neighbours and people that you would have maybe not got on as well with, or you know, all those little things that we took for granted. They mean nothing, because you think to yourself, what's it all for? We're all going to be dead and gone in years to come anyway, so you know, we might as well get on as much as we can and see the people that we can see.
Has it changed you like that? I won't keep you much longer. Have you made decisions in your own head that you're going to do certain things now going forward?
Definitely, for sure, to see more people, and having lost my mum, it's precious and time is very short, and yeah, definitely just keeping in touch with people, being there for one another, and that's most important.